I'm a scenic designer, which means that I'm responsible for designing the sets for different productions. And originally I was going to talk about how my dog has helped me be a better scenic designer. And he has. He's taught me discipline. He's taught me, to kind of roll with the punches and be adaptable when necessary. And as such, I've decided to talk about something else. So I've just come back from Chicago in a really exciting convention called the Latinx Theater Commons Carnival of New Latinx Work. And as a part of this, we present 6 plays. And normally we bring in actors and directors to work through these productions with the playwrights. And this time we added designers into the mix as well. So this is typically what a stage reading looks like. You have actors on stage with music stands in front of them, and they read through the play that they've rehearsed with the director and the playwright to adapt and make sure that the play is kind of evolving in the way that the playwright is interested. For this presentation, we added in designers as well. And this was my team. So up at the top are the 12 designers that participated in this. So there were 3 teams of us, and we worked on 2 plays each, and my team is listed here at the bottom. So together, we kind of conceptualized, we imagined a world for each of the plays that we were assigned, and gave the playwright a deeper understanding of how their play might function. Additionally, we all got to sit in a room together in a way that never happens in the professional world. We were dreaming instead of solving real problems. So the first play I wanted to talk about is Milton, Michigan, by a young playwright named Paz Pardo. She's from Argentina. And our director was Diane Rodriguez, and the dramaturg, which is someone who works out kind of research issues and structural issues. They're an expert in that area. His name was Lucas. So Milton, Michigan is about 2 poets who live in this isolated Midwestern town. Leah and Jake. He teaches and she works as an administrator. So she's given up her kind of artistic life to satisfy Jake's dreams of suburbia. So she's taken this $50,000 poetry winning and put it as a down payment on a house, a nice brick house in Milton, Michigan. She feels like she's kind of abandoned her New York dreams, but also really values the relationship. The struggle in the play comes when a slug arrives in this beautiful suburban home. The slug is actually played by a human being, and over the course of the play, breaks down, literally, the house that they live in. So we go from this kind of pristine suburban existence into destruction. So on the interior, you'll see that they're kind of going for this idyllic experience. Obi's going to pop up through this. You still get cute dog pictures. So over the course of this experience, the slug comes in and tears their lives apart. And rather than it being a destructive process, we're supposed to really embrace the experience of destruction and chaos being a creative force for these 2 poets. So here's the West Elm idyllic lifestyle that they really thought they wanted. And we're expected to kind of think that they're almost trying to buy adulthood. And we're supposed to feel a tension between kind of artistic chaos and, settled suburban life, which for myself, an artist in their 30s going into 40s, I understand that tension. And it kind of resonated with me. What I thought would be interesting is if we had indications in this West Elm perfection of the slug character. So you'll see there's some greens and kind of acid colors that suggest that the slug has been there from the beginning, kind of waiting to take their lives apart. And then there's a line in the play that the slug says, "the wet, warm between." And that, first of all, is good poetry. And secondly, I started to think about the spaces in the house where the slug might inhabit. So the idea of the wet, warm between actually being the space between the exterior facade and the interior of their lives, and how the slug might be able to kind of knock those things apart. I like the idea that the slug is kind of always present, in a way, kind of there at any moment to divert the line of the story. So as the play kind of progresses, we start to see a little bit of destruction happening. And this was a really strong influence for me. So this is an installation piece. And while it's destructive, obviously, there's a certain beauty to it as well. So rather than just being trash, burn it to the ground, there's something good that might come out of all of this destruction of the relationship. And this Thomas Hirschhorn piece really suggested that. I also wanted to think about slugs, not just as gross, slimy things that crawl around on the ground, which they are, but look at how pretty they are, right? Look at the patterns and look at the textures and think about how that might be something in your house. If it wasn't a slug, but maybe looked like a slug. So, and this was the next thing. So this is like slug slime. But imagine if it were like clipped and it were a throw pillow. Or if you had a bunch of glass work in the house, or glass vases, or things like that that call this kind of slug interest into the world, but not in a way that feels gross, in a way that kind of feels pretty. And this was kind of the last kind of crystallizing moment. This is another installation piece by an artist called Philip Beasley. And these are 3D printed artworks that are based on how, like, the structures of molecules. But they also kind of look like slime drips if you're in that place, which I was while researching this. And what I thought might be interesting is to think about, could it be a light fixture? Could it be the glasses in the house? Could they have a lot of champagne flutes around? Things that kind of call that dripping texture into the world, but in a way that maybe is beautiful and different than we initially suggest. So this is my kind of rough sketch. And what you see is basic outline of a house, but the walls are extra wide so that the character can walk through them and show up in different places during the play, maybe knocking things over, maybe breaking glasses, maybe even separating characters on stage, so that she's always been there. We just didn't realize it until she showed up. So, thank you so much for joining me. And this is the Dear Sweet OBJ dog. And he has taught me to roll with the punches, so hopefully you were willing to take that lesson as well. And I appreciate your time tonight.